11 episodes ago, Jeff and Lyda synced up with 11th place in Tokyo. Libby and TJ missed the train to Survivesville and were Nagano in 10th place. Harley and Jonathan were new kids on the chopping block and were eliminated in 9th place in Bangkok. All Bergen and Kurt heard when they rang up to ask about how to drive a manual car in Munich was an engaged tone, leaving them in 8th place. Jeff and Bracky got lost in 7th place in France. Ali and Steve popped out in Namibia. Matt and Ashley's hopes of a win came crashing down just like their potatoes in Peru. And Mike and Rochelle guessed out in Dallas earlier in this episode. Welcome to the final Amazing Race 26 recap episode of the You Are Team Number podcast. My name is Michael Harmstone, and joining me is the Canadian who, unlike Phil Kogan, can count to 9, Logan Saunders.
Afternoon.
And the Australian who'll be back for season 27 as long as he promises not to yell as much, Ben Powell.
Howdy.
You can tweet us using the hashtag YattenCast or email us at yattencast@gmail.com. After 9 countries, 5 continents, and nearly 35,000 miles, we have our winners, Team Human Unicorn and Funky Kong, Laura and Tyler. Are you pleased?
No.
Yes.
For starters, Laura doesn't act like a unicorn at all. She's like not a unicorn. She's like the anti-unicorn. She's a grump.
She's like a pentacorn. Hello, Bo. No one will get that reference unless you've heard Bo Burnham.
Who? What?
The 1 week that Logan abandons Laura and Tyler as his picks a win, they win.
I've only Laura had that same luck.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that, especially after last week, we were not expecting Laura and Tyler to win. That was a completely left field choice, and whilst I'm going to be reasonable towards the season, what was that editing? For want of a better term. The whole point of an edit is to make your winners look sympathetic. That is not the way to do it, guys.
General reaction is that, from the viewers in general, I think, especially reading through the comments online, that there wasn't too many people who seemed particularly unhappy with them winning, though.
And, it is like 2015, and we're used to going through the motions of reality television edits, but you don't always have to have the edit of the winner be sympathetic or, make them out to be perfect. Like
David Connor, Freddie and Keika Kendra.
I'm talking about, recent, Tony.
Yeah, but Tony had his sympathetic moments. Tony was at least a funny villain.
Who's Tony?
Tony was a wild, insane mess.
Tony Vlachos, to quote Woo on his video. Tony was fun. Laura and Tyler were just kind of bitchy.
Yeah, but, fun is, subjective. Basically, the point I'm trying to get is that, sometimes winners have flaws. They don't have to be, perfect and get a perfect edit and, I guess that was the foundation of our reasoning that we thought Blair and Haley would win, but still.
Yeah, especially when half of the teams going into the finale had a traditional winner-style awesome edit in Blair and Haley and Mike and Rowe. And, Laura and Tyler were probably our least likely to win last week. So it just didn't sit well with me.
It's not just because the edit, because I just think they're smart. I just think they're boring.
They were the worst option for a blind date team to win, I think.
And then when I tried not to be boring, they were just obnoxious. I mean, the minor fury surrounding the whole potato spitting thing was hilarious. But apart from that, I doubt anyone's going to actually remember their names in a year from now.
I was so disappointed that they weren't eliminated in 4th place, so I couldn't do a spitting reference in the intro.
I wish that each of them would spit on their $500,000 checks when it's presented to them after the season is over.
On the early show by Julie Chen.
Yeah, they spit on the checks on the early show with Harry and, Julie Chen and whoever the heck the hosts are now, and just be like, oh, we spit on your checks.
So, previously, 6 dating couples squared off against 10 singles for the most extreme blind dates ever. The blind dates felt sparks and heartbreak throughout the race. After epic highs and crushing lows, love conquered all. Oh, this intro was terrible. After 11 legs, 7 teams were eliminated. Blair and Haley got off to an awkward start, but learned to work together and dominated the last 2 legs. Mike and Rowe had a goal and the race tested them, especially when they thought they were waving goodbye in leg 11. But it was a twist that kept them safe. Jaylani and Jenny won early but had issues to work out through the middle part of this season. They were almost permanently in the friend zone, but their friendship pushed them into the final leg. And Laura and Tyler started with positive first impressions, and they quickly bonded over their hatred of other teams. After they struggled in Germany, they apparently became a force to be reckoned with.
Even though they run roughly the same number of legs as everybody else in the Final Four.
Yeah, with the exception of Mike and Rowe, obviously, but, we love Mike and Rowe, we don't care. And teams, as we found out at the end of last leg, must now fly to Dallas and find the AT&T Stadium to find their next clue. Caution, sometime during this leg, Phil will be eliminating one team. And everyone was on the same flight at 10:10 p.m.
It's a Final Four. It was just hilarious to see teams be so shocked that it's the Final Four, and then they go home, and the audience is probably just going to make fun of them because it's like, oh, didn't you guys see the amazingrace 25 finale? Or are you guys so stupid and not think that it's a Final Four? But yet somehow didn't, who was it? Was it Tyler that predicted that there'd probably be 4 at the end?
Yeah.
Because if he predicted that, that was pretty impressive.
Yeah, Tyler predicted it.
I think mostly he predicted it because of the whole keep on racing thing. That's sort of a giveaway. Like, it probably wasn't a giveaway last season, but this season, like, I think that's why they hit it until Mike and Rochelle got to keep on racing.
From the audience? Yeah.
Yeah. And then I'm guessing last season they guessed to be a Final Four as well because they had to keep on racing. But this season, I think they put together that they're keeping on racing, so it is a Final Four.
Unless it's Amazing Race Latino America, you can pretty much guarantee that a Keep On Racing leg will be a non-elimination. I think Latino America is the only one where it's Keep On Racing, but the last team will get eliminated. And did you notice that Jaylani told everyone to expect the unexpected?
Are you saying he has a career as Jelani Chen for Big Brother 17?
I was under the impression that Mike was the only one who wanted to go on Big Brother. Fact! Mike actually applied for Big Brother, and they saw the casting tapes and went, have you got anyone you want to race with on Amazing Race? Because we might cast you. So, at the AT&T Stadium, the roadblock was Who Wants to Score?
Jackie.
You were just waiting for that.
Pretty much. I'm coming out full force today.
And in this roadblock, one team member must dress in a Dallas Cowboys uniform, grab their playbook from 300 foot up in the air, which was entirely pointless, catch a pass, and then kick a field goal to receive the next clue.
It was cool, though. It wasn't entirely pointless.
Yeah, but what is the point of having them get a playbook? I don't understand it.
Why not a playbook? What would you prefer it be in its place, Michael?
It had the instructions of what they're going to do for the rest of the task.
Yeah, basically give them a reverse bungee up 300 foot in the air, for some reason. And it was Mike, Jaylani, Tyler and Blair doing the roadblock, and they really went full force on this roadblock with the special effects.
The Jumbotron and the fake crowd noise that they created and the whole booming effect, it was... If you were an American football fan, I guess that would be a very neat thing to do.
America!
We're all American football fans in here, aren't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the perfect podcast to discuss our favorite NFL teams. Like, especially my favorite NFL player who is, guys want to help me out here?
No.
No.
Yeah, given that my entire experience with American sports was the Boston Bruins bribing me to support them with cake, yeah, I'm not the best. I'm not the most qualified to speak about this. And yes, I know they're ice hockey, before anyone says it. And yeah, Ben's from Australia.
I don't even follow the football here.
I mean, my one experience of American sport is just being bribed with cake, which is perfectly appropriate, I suppose. And if any teams want to send me cake in exchange for my loyalty, I'm fine with that. But yeah, we can't really go into American football because none of us care that much.
I must point out, though, that here in Canada, that when it's Super Bowl night, there is a ton of crazy NFL fans, just even people that I know personally, like my siblings and my brother-in-law, that a lot of stores in town will just be emptied when the Super Bowl is on.
And my one experience of Canadian football is body break flipping off Holly and Brett.
Yeah, good old CFL. That was the biggest highlight in the history of in the Canadian Football League. Also something I have zero interest in because they have about 1/10 the skill of NFL players.
Viewers, if you haven't gotten by far, we are not sports people.
Well, MMA. I watch MMA a lot. I would do it.
We are not real sports people.
Logan's main sport is running. My main sport at the moment is editing this sodding podcast.
My main sport is World of Warcraft.
Oh, and video games. Video games are now technically a sport.
Nintendo eSports.
Yes, I will be working on becoming competitive at Splatoon in 2 weeks' time. Yes! When I don't have one of these podcasts to do, so I'll be just spending the evening playing Splatoon. It's going to be awesome.
Meanwhile, I play real games.
Like Portal, which Logan still needs to play.
I am not a PC gamer. I haven't played a PC game in about 12 years.
It's on PS3 and Xbox 360, I think, yeah.
And also Portal is well worth getting into PC gaming for.
Yeah.
As Ben will attest, my Steam library is basically just Portal and Grand Theft Auto, and nothing else.
Anyway, has this got like sideline very fast, isn't it?
Speaking of sidelines, Phil is on the sidelines for this roadblock, right on the field.
Phil.
Ready to report.
I like that they did 2 on-location reports for Phil, They weren't content with just letting him show at once.
That filming schedule must have been a nightmare, though. Like, get full into the thing. They has to like run, and I'm assuming like get helicopter down to the route info, and then get helicopter down to the final roadblock task, and then to the finish line as well. Meanwhile, you have to actually film the first thing to check in here will win $1 million. That bit you have to film that with Mark and Michelle. So there's a very very tight schedule there, I'm imagining.
Do you think that the return of taxis for this entire final leg was purely because of Brooke and Robbie getting so lost last final leg?
I'm assuming so, yes, and I'm also assuming that they actually they keep like they got the taxis at the airport, right? Because minus spoilers for Logan, at least. At the end of season 17, the taxis they got after some of the tasks that they were brought to the next task with, they were like taxis that were specifically chosen because the drivers are not very good at English.
Is that actually true? Because that doesn't surprise me, but that's awesome.
Well, in the same way that the Illuminati exists, but it's just my conspiracy theory, but, it would make sense to, like, challenge the racers to make it through with a taxi that doesn't really speak English. Even on the home front, they can't escape it.
And on that subject, Susan Mitchell had a question. She said, is there a specific number of cabs placed at a specific location for a specific challenge, or how does that work?
In this season, I can't imagine it because it's actually, Dallas-Fort Worth Airport, they can't really, like, unless there was some, herding we didn't see, whether they were forced into a certain cab rank with certain cabs waiting. I can't see them organising that. And
also, we got the question a couple of times, why do CBS insist on taxis in the final leg, especially on the way to the finish line? And I'm going to let Logan go on this one.
Pretty much what was said in the interview we did with Joe and Bill, that it's just a huge safety issue to let teams be in control of vehicles on the way to the finish line for $1 million. So not only are you protecting the racers and the production crew inside their vehicle, but probably the locals and pedestrians who probably want to avoid somebody driving on their way to $1 million.
And on the subject of that interview, it is still available at yankcast.wordpress.com. So it's Tyler who is the first to catch pass.
And spike it.
And spike it, yep. And Mike is second, Blair's the third to catch, and Jaylani in last. And Jenny was quite vocal during this task as well.
I don't know if it's because the stadium was that loud with all the sound effects, or if she was just getting that intense with wanting to win this final leg, or both.
Yeah, she was basically double rainbow intense.
How recent.
Listen, I made references to it for 5 seasons on the trot where they introduced double express pass, and I was doing the current results thread on
What?
So.
Did you just make up words? I didn't understand a word of that.
Yeah, you know how I keep updating the note on the UR Team Facebook group with the results of each leg? Every single time they introduce double express pass, I did do a reference to that video. Double express pass so intense.
How long are they doing the double express pass for?
It was season 22, but we also had it for Australia as well, and Canada. So it was about 5 or 6 seasons that I did it for. Thankfully we didn't have it this season because, double express pass, boo.
Or last season they avoided that as well.
Yeah, they had the save instead, which is basically the Tyler Perry idol. And Laura and Tyler are the first to leave the challenge.
Ooh.
Blair and Haley in second, Mike and Roe in third, and Jaylani and Jenny in last.
And an unintentional equalizer outside the stadium. It didn't really matter who finished when because Tyler and Laura's taxi didn't even know where to go, and then Haley and Blair's taxi was slow to get out of the AT&T stadium as well, so everyone just caught up to each other.
And Mike and Roe's taxi didn't exist.
Do you know what would have been funny? If Haley and Blair, Laura and Tara would have depended on Haley and Blair to leave, and if they continued to be so, it would have been funny if Haley and Blair just waited for both Mike, Rochelle, and Jelani and Jenny to, get to both leave, and then just follow them and basically eliminate Laura and Tyler in a foot race.
I was thinking that, but then that also runs the risk of there being another challenge before the elimination, and Laura and Tyler being able to beast it.
Yeah, I guess so. If this was a twist they'd seen before, and they knew that there'd be a task, then the next route marker would be the elimination, like what happened last season. I'm guessing that Haley and Blair might have taken the risk and to do something like that. Then again, it's Haley and Blair, so maybe not.
And after the AT&T Stadium, teams must now head to the P2 Ranch to find their next claim.
Or if you're Mike and Rochelle,
the main road to find your next taxi. And then the complete opposite direction to find petrol. And it was an active route info, which is join a Texan cattle drive and corral at least 6 Longhorn to receive the next clue. Or, if you're Mike and Rochelle, meet Phil and get eliminated.
That was a really early elimination point for the finale. That was only a third of the way into everything that they did in Dallas. Like, if it was a midway elimination point, it would have been right when they just show up at the reunion tower. That's where the elimination point would have been if it was exactly halfway in the leg.
Having said that, last season it was go to the City Hall, get your permit stamped, then go to the roadblock location, and that's where Brooke and Robbie got eliminated. So it's actually about the same place as it was last year.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had 2 tasks after Brooke and Robbie got eliminated, or 3 tasks actually, including the roadblock. And Tyler thought that his cowgirl was hot.
With the most over-animated thumbs up in quite a while.
Well, Tyler likes a thumbs up, as we proved in Monaco and France.
Indeed.
And Jenny decided to add a bit of interest to the task and make it a rodeo.
Sort of like with Joyce, it was a very Joyce-like moment for Jenny on the horse.
That horse is just too wild.
It was Blair and Hayley leaving in first, with Jaylani and Jenny in second, and Laura and Tyler in third. And the cattle were all rounded up by that point, so Mike and Ro were last and eliminated. And teams must now head to the reunion tower to find the next clue.
I think with Mike and Rochelle that after the whole zebra incident, that Mike and Rochelle not having to do the horse task probably saved them a lot of pain and misery, I think.
And Rochelle not having to do the rappel task, or the abseil task, is also probably saving them.
That is true. It was probably for the best that they didn't get to do those 2 tasks.
And this task at the reunion tower is who has a sharp eye. And in this roadblock, the team member who didn't do the first roadblock must climb the tower and look for their next clue whilst abseiling down. They must then go to the place that they spotted, and if they're correct, they'll find their next clue. And if they're not, they will find a parking garage. And it's Hayley, Jenny and Laura doing the roadblock. And Hayley completely missed a clue. Do you think that production deliberately painted a pole red and yellow just to wind them up?
Was it painted red and yellow though? I thought it was just red.
Yeah, I think Laura and Tyler said that it was painted red and yellow. I'm not sure if it was deliberate, I just think it was a bit unfortunate for her.
It'd be funny if producers did that.
Just plant a flag at everywhere around, in like 5 or 6 different locations.
Yeah, just spend a couple $1,000 to get permission, just paint graffiti and red and yellow graffiti on a bunch of buildings to be like, okay, let's try and screw up the teams as much as possible here.
What would have been even funnier is if they would have planted flags at the P2 ranch.
Just make them go back to the ranch just to confuse the hell out of them.
Yeah, so they think they have to go back to the ranch. Tyler completely bitched about Blair and Hayley being in the lead, and his prayers were answered when she completely missed a clue, and Laura and Jenny both didn't.
You know what was weird is they know that the finish line is probably only an hour and a half or 2 hours away at this point, and it was very odd to see 2 teams make an alliance to try to win together, where they were happy if either of them won at that point, just for stopping another team from potentially winning. You never really see that any other season. Like, I know somebody's going to bring up, like, Luke and Jamie and Cara worked together on the surfboards in the Amazing Race 14, but it didn't really matter in that situation because both those teams were so far behind Tammy and Victor that it didn't really matter. But in this situation, it's a really close call to where, one of those 2 teams could still very well win this thing. So it was very odd to see them keep up an alliance this late in the race.
And once they followed the flags, it was another active route info, which was test your memory at the end of the bog pit, test your driving skills to get there, and teams must drive a monster truck through a course and then unlock a tool shed by matching 4 locations to their leg numbers. They must match the selfies in the chest to the route that they took to receive their final clue.
I was amazed with how much Jenny wanted to beat Hayley and Blair to the point that she pretty much just cursed and was getting all angry about it, angrier than Tyler had been all season long.
Yeah, I don't particularly understand where the hate for Blair and Hayley came from.
It's probably the same intensity that Jenny had from yelling at Jelani at the football stadium, so maybe she was just really wound up all day long where she really was in Hulk mode.
Yeah, I'm not sure where that hate came from, but I'm sure we'll get the opportunity to find out fairly soon. I'm being so unsubtle today, it's fun. And the 4 locations that they've got to match up to unlock their tool shed are the Bukhandlung in Namibia, Ban Sri Lanka in Thailand, the Muntoren in Amsterdam, and Kandamyojin in Tokyo. And it was Jaylani and Jenny having their tool shed open first.
Which was good.
Yep, it was. It gave me false hope.
I didn't really think that Jelani and Jenny had a chance at this point, considering how little they'd been shown, and that Phil really gave them no sort of overall narration of what they had done up to that point in the race. They were very Jeremy. They were in a very Jeremy and Sandy-like position in the finale.
But it was all for nothing because Laura and Tyler were the first to leave the task.
What did you think of the whole concept of, like, ordering your selfies?
It's a relic from when they were trying to push the selfies and the dating aspect of the season.
I liked it, though. Like, it was, it was, as well as being fairly difficult, it was just, like, a nice, reminder of what they've been through together. So it was, like, it went into the theme of the season, as well as being a pretty creative task.
I liked that it was basically teams controlling their own fate, and that they took all the selfies. So if they took terrible selfies, and CBS chose those ones, then they were screwed.
Would that have been all their selfies?
Yeah. I think they were probably told by production to take a couple of selfies a leg, get some memories, and then, psych! It's actually the final memory challenge. And I think if it was done as of the production of after leg 5, I don't think they would have included the selfies. I think they would have come up with something else.
I liked it anyway. Like, I wasn't fond of, like, forcing the selfies down our throat for the first 4 legs, but, just to have it at the end as a reminder of what they've been through, that was a very good way to tie the whole season together.
I found it funny with just how unexpected it was to have that as a final task as well, to know that there was a point to the selfies. It wasn't just some pointless thing to do for the first half of the season that they scrapped just because the audience hated it. It was a genuine idea they wanted to take through all the way to the end, because after 26 seasons, you're probably going to be running out of ideas to try and surprise contestants as to what the final memory challenge will be.
I think it was pretty funny that everyone guessed it sarcastically. They were like, oh, wouldn't it be great if the selfies were the final memory challenge? Yeah, they are. So well done to you. And the finish line is the Continental Avenue Bridge. This is it. Go, go, go.
Why did we have to know Big Don the judge? I don't think he cared for the selfies all that much. I have a feeling there's a judge off the sidelines telling him whether or not the team was right.
Yeah, I think so too. And above everything else, we need to remember that Laura can't even.
She can't even.
She was running to the finish line and she can't even. It's a genuine condition, guys. It's an affliction.
Either way, they did the whole who's going to come first, Jelani and Jenny or Laura and Tyler thing, and for once I was hoping that the team that actually edited in second would actually come first. Well, for once in recent memory, at least. I mean, there's plenty of other times throughout history where I would have preferred the second place team to win over the first place team, but yeah. I'm
gonna think Caroline and Jennifer.
I just wanted that whole season to die. So except Brendan and Rachel, because I do like them.
And the Afghanimals.
What else is there? Oh yeah, the first actual All Stars.
Obviously, I think anyone would have supported Dustin and Candice or Charlotte and Mina over Eric and Danielle.
I think Amazing Race 10, I really wanted Rob and Kim to beat Tyler and James. Rob and Kim were just huge fan favorites from start to finish.
The team I wanted to win season 10 was stuck in France, so
I think we all agree on that.
And Phil also said 8 countries still. Phil is wrong. It was 9 countries.
Protest.
Yep.
Race invalid.
I tweeted him before the podcast that he was wrong. He can't count to 9.
Well, how long ago was it? Like December? I'm sure he's realised his mistake by now.
Yeah, but they said it in the pre-race materials as well. CBS actually said 8 countries, 5 continents. And then I counted it halfway through the season, and it was 9.
Phil has lost a lot of sleep since he made that mistake back in December.
I'm sure he's been turning in his grave. Not grave. What am I talking about?
Yes, he has a stunt double now.
Ben Powell killing off Phil Kogan.
That's why he doesn't wear turtlenecks anymore.
There's so many ways to go with that.
So, yeah, Laura and Tyler were the official winners of the Amazing Race. Yay.
With that obnoxious video selfie running into the pit stop. Like, I would be a fan if any other team did it, but, like, them doing it, they just made it the most obnoxious way possible.
The best thing about that, though, was Tyler's hat falling off halfway through.
Oh, yeah, that.
And it completely not being mentioned again. Someone needs to go back to the bridge and find Tyler's hat. Save Tyler's hat.
And spit on it.
Yeah, and spit on it. And fill it with potatoes. And Jelani and Jenny were in second place, and by the look of things, quite a way back in third were Blair and Hayley.
Buckle up, Blair!
Buckle up! I love how we just got one last shot of Hayley shouting, "Buckle up, Blair."
Yes, and yes, Hayley really playing the role of Miss Frizzle, of making sure everybody's got their seatbelts on inside the vehicle.
Miss Frizzle.
Phil was really, really hammering the dating angle.
Yes, he still isn't quite giving up on it, even today.
I understand that was the aim of the season, but if they really had changed with the edit, they probably could have not put in that bit.
Are you guys dating? You guys are dating, right? What do you mean you're not dating?
Come on, guys, seriously, we're going to have to go to Jeff and Bracky if you don't answer yes. And Lord knows we don't want to give them another VT, where they can make coy references about them boning at Elimination Station.
Oh.
And I quote, "They got to know each other on a deeper level." Yeah, they did. And the season finished with a beautiful, heartfelt quote from Blair and Hayley. I would do this race again with Hayley, as long as she promised not to yell so much. This season in a nutshell.
Blair spent a lot in that piggyback. I'm surprised that both of them weren't extremely dizzy.
Eagle!
That's the one note I have about the finish, is dizzying piggyback rides. I contribute a lot to this podcast.
You contribute as much as you normally do, Logan. So, what can we say about this season as a whole? Dare I ask?
It was better than it could have been.
It was better than we thought it was going to be, but God, this finale let it down.
The result of the finale let it down.
The actual finale was decent, but I
like the structure of the leg, how recently the Amazing Race has been going back to like stereotypical things to see in each country, and this leg it was Cowboys, Texas, football, yeah!
Football!
As Phil said before the episode on Friday, we're going big in Texas. And I'll let them off, purely because it's not a New York finale and it's not an LA finale. We actually got to see another state for once. The actual casting of the season wasn't the best we've ever seen.
Well, there's only so much CDS can do when there's 11 dating teams. Although I'm guessing it was 10 singles, 5 dating teams, and 1 dating team that is obviously going to propose somewhere in the race.
You mean Kurt and Bergen?
Apparently that was a joke.
What? Do you mean we're not the only ones that, create Amazing Race hoaxes? Kurt and Bergen are capable of doing that as well? Somebody's stomping on our territory here.
We have never created an Amazing Race hoax. How dare you?
Yes.
But yeah, Bergen and Kurt, they obviously matched up because they thought we need a gay team and we don't really care if they're compatible. Which is a bit unfortunate, really.
Let's make them look the same as well, because every other team looks the same, Look at the stark similarities between Laura and Tyler.
At least we got the new meme favourites, Jeff and Lyda.
They always show that same clip over and over again. It's the only clip we ever see from Jeff and Lyda, even dating back to the Amazing Race 25 finale. We're not going to give up. We're not going to give up hope.
Which I'm sure will keep appearing on Logan's blog. In the same way that Margie Adams does occasionally.
We're finishing.
Oh, she hates us.
Oh, yeah, she will.
Dermatologists hate us.
Maybe Lyda can be the next racer to call you an asshole, Logan.
One day.
Lofty heights. When they get brought back with the revival pass.
We'll say, though, that overall for this season, I think a good way to sum it up with the overall reaction to the audience and everything that we saw go down, and editors switching over the edit like a third of the way into the season, I think it's just overall a season with a very mixed bag of reactions. Like, nobody is saying that it's the absolute best season, but from there on, there's just a whole range of opinions in terms of what we saw play out on TV over the past 3 months.
I think our discussion about sort of mid-teen season is a good one from last week. It's not the best that we've ever seen, it's not the worst we've ever seen, but it's just kind of it's a season that I think will be forgotten.
Probably. If you had to rank like the seasons that after, this might take a while, but like, if you had to rank the seasons that appeared after Unfinished Business, how would this hold up?
See, I'm weird. I don't particularly like 20. I don't particularly like 21. Don't particularly like 22. 23 was alright. 24 was the dire pits of hell. 25 was awesome.
19 was a season too.
19 was probably the epitome of the least memorable season probably to ever air. And I actually was going this over my head, like if I had to rank the 25 winners of Amazing Race, and then in terms of most memorable to least memorable, and had to throw Tyler and Laura in there somewhere, I probably, in terms of being memorable, I'd throw them near the bottom where a team like Ernie and Cindy would be, or Tyler and James would be. I don't think that people are going to remember Tyler and Laura's win because they weren't big personalities at all, and just the overall, like they just don't really dominate the edit too much. Sure, they were our narrators for the most part, and Tyler has his amusing moments, and they spat on potatoes, which made national headlines. But I just don't think anybody's really going to remember them, say, a year from now, just because of being like a stock friend/dating couple team that we've seen all too often as of late.
Yeah, I think this season is... I think a good comparison would be 19, because it's kind of a season.
This season, overall, I think is either my top 2 or top 3 favourites since Unfinished Business. I know 25 is obviously the best, but I'm not sure if the quality of the seasons has been pretty low since then. Like, not particularly like dreadful, but 24 was dreadful, but apart from that, it's like 21 and 22 and 23 were sort of like, I don't know, 6 out of 10, averaging a 6 out of 10. But like 25 was I'd say like 25 would be like at least a 9 out of 10. But like this season, I'm thinking it was like a 7 or an 8 out of 10, because like as a race, the route wasn't mind blowing and relied on all this dating couple stuff, like
But the route got better. That's the thing. The route started off in a 24 style. We get 2 legs in each country, but at least they're slightly more interesting countries. But then it kind of went awesome as soon as they hit Europe, hit Germany, France, Monaco, then Namibia. It kind of sagged towards the end for me.
I think what really cinched the season as good to me was where the route and the races and the legs had its shortcoming. The teams made up for that because they were all like very either highly entertaining or very likable, except for Laura and Tyler, but we'll skip over them. Because like, Haley and Blair, big characters. Jelani and Jenny, pretty good characters as well. Mike and Rochelle, love them, And like, Libby and CJ were great early boots. Harley and Jonathan were like likable, even though they left really early. Allie and Steve, that's them, right?
Yeah.
Allie and Steve. Yeah, they like started out boring, but then they got really hilariously entertaining in Namibia.
But yeah, I think my enjoyment of a season can hinge on a winner as well. If I'm satisfied with the winner, I will remember the season a bit better.
Yeah, mostly, but like, yeah, I agree with that. Like sometimes a winner can ruin a season. Like, I don't even think of one off the top of my head, but sometimes the winner does ruin a season, but like only if the winner is terrible. Like Laura and Tyler, if I had to like rank them against the pantheon of Amazing Race winners, that I put them like in the bottom 10 or something, maybe bottom 20 or bottom 10 or something like that. But I wouldn't say they're like terrible. I'd just say they're sort of unlikable and kind of not that good.
If we compare it to 25 though, Amy and Maya winning 25 increased the season for me. Because they are such a great winning pair.
But they're not an inspiration.
Yeah, they're not inspirational. But Maya was just so good so entertaining a character, so enthusiastic, and probably the most enthusiastic racer since Mallory that we've seen. And then
Amy was good too, because if only because it was just fun watching her like go through Hostel Part 4.
Oh my god! I looked to the screen caps of that again earlier. That cup massage thing better be a switchback at some point soon. Because that was just maybe the best task that they have done in probably about 10 years. It was so good.
Tall order.
And that is big words. So, we have some listener questions. And we're going to start with someone who Ben knows especially well. Michelle Pearce-Donovan, the queen of Yattencast. And also Ben's counterparts when he interviewed Kat and Jessie in March, also available at yattencast.wordpress.com. I'm just plugging interviews. And she says, what are the pros and cons of having a final 4-team run to the finish, as opposed to 3? Also, why do you think that they did it this way? And I would say that it's to just keep things fresh. Especially last season, teams weren't expecting to see a final 4. And it's sort of quite rote if you know there's a non-elimination in leg 10, that it's going to be an elimination in leg 11. So it probably goes back to their point of always trying to keep teams racing for the pit stop. If a team in leg 11 knows that they're in last place, they probably aren't going to try that hard.
The question is, now that this twist has been used twice and is out in the open, will they use it again next year?
No, not
I
yet.
don't think so.
They'll rest it for at least 2-3 seasons.
I would love it if the team is absolutely so convinced that they think this Final Four twist is going to happen, so they sort of just be really lazy in the penultimate round, and then Phil says, no, guys, you're eliminated. Stop being so presumptuous. Go home.
Or maybe they should just evolve it into a Final 5 twist. Do a Final 5 and then have a double elimination at one of the route markers, just to annoy Phil. Austin Hardin says, who's worse, Hayley and Blair or Jaylani and Jenny? The answer is Tyler and Laura.
I think it's interesting with Tyler and Laura because I think there is sort of like polarizing opinions on them because, yeah, they don't have big personalities, but Tyler was, besides the mild douchiness, he did have like that source of comedy that I think people sort of relate to, that very Judd Apatow style type of comedy, I think. With just his comments and jokes and stuff, where I think people do relate to that with being the guy just in his early 30s and stuff. But
I know my thing on Hayley and Blair and to an extent Julie and Jenny is like, I know like if you've listened to both the Big Brother Canada and Amazing Race podcast, you know that I went on that huge soapbox about the big character thing. It seems a bit hypocritical for me to like condemn the concept of a quote big character unquote, and then like be one of Hayley's biggest supporters. But the difference between like the difference between some sort like one type of big character like quote big character unquote like Greg or just any of the assholes that appear in Big Brother UK. And the difference between like someone like Hayley or Cass on Survivor, or I don't know who's a good character on a good big character on Survivor.
Shireen?
Yeah, Shireen, or maybe even Sandra.
Sandra, yeah. The difference between those types of characters, the arseholes and the not arseholes, is like yes, Hayley did have some questionable behavior that people did find annoying, but the difference to me that is like like I know we all as human beings have different contexts and backgrounds and all that stuff, and we find different stuff objectionable and non-objectionable, like, but it's all just about like what you find objectionable and what you don't. Like nagging on a reality show is finding that annoying is to me it's a very ancient sort of opinion to hold. Like, if you find nagging annoying, I don't understand why you find nagging annoying, because people they put personalities on the television show that do have sort of A-type, strong personalities, want to lead, want to do things right, and as it goes, some of those are going to be the types that if they're put with another person and work with another person, they are going to be type to nag. So it's been 15 years since like the popularization of the reality television show. So to be surprised that in an event or a show where they cast so many strong personalities, and they still have people that nag, to be surprised by that and object to that seems like a very naive opinion to hold. So like if you go into a show knowing that there's someone who's going to nag and someone does nag, but they're not doing it in a way that's objectionable or offensive to anyone. It's just sort of like Hayley is loud and nags and tries to get her word across. It's like, compared to someone like on Big Brother UK, how there's all these big characters are either like sexist or racist or homophobic, but the argument still tries to stand behind them that they should be appreciated because they're big characters. That's not something I agree with, or like Greg from Big Brother Canada, because like I personally, when I put my opinion forward, I've taken that sort of stuff into account. Like I don't give characters who are sexist or racist or homophobic their dues, because that is objectionable behavior to me. But Hayley nagging or Jenny nagging or nagging is not objectionable behavior to me, because you've come to expect it when you watch reality shows. So to find Hayley objectionable because she nags or because she's annoying, I think is a very naive point of view to have when considering you're watching a reality show where they put those kind of people on television. But I don't think. But this is 2015. They don't go out of their way. Not many shows go out of their way to put sexist or racist or homophobic people on reality television, but they do put personalities that nag. So to expect, I expect the Haleys and I expect the Jennys to have those personalities that are strong and nag, but, you know, people who have the personalities I find objectionable, I object to, and despite how much of a, quote, big character they are, I'm still going to rally against that.
I would say that Big Brother is a different kettle of fish in terms of big characters. As we have discussed at length, you don't really need a big character as long as you have entertaining people. Whereas I think a Amazing Race season especially can live and die by whether everyone's a bit boring. Big Brother, as long as people come to play and make big moves or entertaining moves, doesn't really matter whether their personality is entertaining.
I would say that regardless of the cast or regardless of the format, if you took any of the casts that were cast on Big Brother around the world, Australia, UK, Canada, US, if you swap them around, I would think that regardless of the format, regardless of their worth at the format they're good at, they would like not change much because that's how they are as people and that's why they're cast. Like, you know, I don't think that gameplay should have much to do with the Big Brother season because, you know, Kevin was, you know, ostensibly a good game player, but, you know,
an objectionable person.
Mostly an objectionable person because, you know, he has that stuff where he has that very misogynistic view towards women and, you know, considers a lot of people like terrible players, even though, hello, you got eliminated with them. So you have no pedestal to be standing on there, Bucky.
Is Logan still even awake? Can I just point out?
Yes, I am present. I have a question for you guys because with Amazing Race, I mean, all the hate online seems to be primarily for Jenny and Haley and even Allie a few weeks back when she was yelling at Steve. So pretty much on Amazing Race, it's just the females that have been getting the hate this year. But on Survivor, it is just the males that have been getting a lot of hate from the audience. So do you think that there's two separate demographics that watch Survivor and Amazing Race, or?
Well, the Amazing Race is mostly conservative audience, isn't it?
Yes, that's another thing I wrote down too, is that's been long documented that, well, up until recently when Amazing Race's ratings have declined, that for a long time that the Amazing Race was the most popular show amongst like Republicans and conservatives within the United States. Not so much for Survivor. But
the difference between them is like Rodney and Will and Dan have portrayed like really objectionable behavior. Like Rodney is a huge misogynist. Dan is like
awful.
They're just all awful. Like, you know, not even in the like in the casual Haley or Jenny or Ali sort of way where they're just like sort of like, you know, annoying, which is a, you know, subjective thing to begin with. But like, you know, I don't want to see people acting treating women like that on reality shows. Even like, you know, Will or Dan and Rodney are all like, you know, Dan and Rodney mostly just like heavily sexist, misogynistic. But like, and Will just like the stuff he said to Shireen was completely out of line of any situation ever. Whereas Haley and Jenny and Ali never had, well, Ali to an extent, and Jenny still to an extent never had that because, you know, it's a reality show. They cast like I said, like, you know, at least 5 times already. They cast personalities that are strong and want to lead, and to find objection in that because they are strong personalities and want to lead and they're women is a very naive point of view, and I heavily question why you're watching this show 15 years in if you still think it's of nice people traveling around the world.
Obviously, the exit interviews haven't come out yet, and by the time that this podcast is uploaded, they will have come out. But I highly doubt that either Jenny or Haley are going to sit there with any interviewer and say, I heard what you said on the podcast, I think you're an asshole.
Unless they're Greg.
I heard this roundtable that you did, and frankly, I'm going to have a go at the people who contributed to the roundtable because they have different opinions to me.
Oh, so much misandry.
Yeah.
Oh.
If you watch Survivor and you have not heard anything with Dan's exit interviews from this week, seriously look them up, because he did have a go at a particular interviewer who held a roundtable a couple of weeks ago when all the Dan and Will and Rodney shit started coming up, and basically said, I heard your podcast. What was that girl's name? Shandy? Yeah, she's horrible. She's wrong. Because I'm not misogynistic at all. And I'm definitely not aggressive because I'm shouting at you right now. He just proved everything that we thought of him.
And that's the kind of character people should be upset about. But like, Instead, people go in the exact opposite direction and like consider him, oh, he's such a big character. He's great. He made this season interesting. It's like, no. How? What's like, okay, like I've said it like 5 times already. Okay, you got airtime. That don't impress me much.
At least, unlike with Amazing Race, where people are just baselessly having a go at Hayley and Jenny, at least most of the fans are calling out Dan on his bullshit. In the week that Will shouted at Shireen that much, everyone in the Survivor community rallied around her. And that is a good thing to see, and wouldn't happen with Amazing Race. Anyway, questions. Judy Zimmerman said, are the teams equipped with microphones on the race, or do the camera crews have really sensitive equipment that can pick up the conversation?
I think they have like black pack. I think they have pack microphones on every reality show. Come to think of it.
Yep, and also they do travel with a cameraman and a sound guy.
Yep, teams have gotten time credits because of low battery in their mic packs.
And she also asked, can you speculate on where the eliminated teams were kept until the finale? And I know the answer to this. I know where in the world.
Where in the world was Elimination Station, Michael?
It was Barcelona.
Oh, nice.
And Susan Mitchell says, I was curious, how involved is Phil Kogan in the making of Tar each season?
Well, he pretty much just like, he's there for casting for a good chunk of it. I think he meets like the semi-finalists and finalists for casting. And then pretty much just the Matt chat and the filming for all the scenes that we see on the race. And I think that's... And then, of course, having to do all the social media obligations and press tours and stuff, and I think that's about it for him. It's nowhere near as much as Jeff Probst's involvement with Survivor.
It's somewhere between Jeff Probst and Julie Chen, where Julie Chen is just the host, and Jeff Probst is the executive producer and host and reunion host and all that stuff. I
did like that during this Amazing Race episode we did see an advert for Julie Chen returns in Big Brother.
Yeah, like as if Julie Chen's the star of Big Brother. Like, I think... that's a very small percentage of the audience is watching for Julie Chen, waiting for her to make her verbal slip-ups on air when hosting challenges.
Yeah, I'll agree with that, Logan. But first...
See, doing Julie Chen impressions doesn't work when we're not on video, guys. Because you have to do the turn to a different camera as well.
Stay with us.
Arissa's about a host anyway, so even in her first season, like, you need a host Big Brother that's like, connected with the show and has enthusiasm. You don't need someone who's reading off a teleprompter all the time, and it's pretty obvious they're reading off a teleprompter.
And we will finish with our very own Michelle Pierce-Donovan again, and she says, since the final 3 teams were all blind dates, do you think that had a hand in how well they did? Did the familiarity of established couples create a roadblock in their race strategy compared to others?
Nope, I disagree with all of that, because even before the race started, we predicted that the blind date couples all looked like they were going to do really well. I think the only big surprise for this season is how early Allie and Steve went, and then also how far Mike and Rochelle went, and then we thought that the other 3 blind date couples were probably going to make it either to the end or very close to it.
And it's funny that you mentioned a particular team there, Logan. That would be Mike and Rochelle, because, fun fact, they're joining us next week.
What?
I did not know that.
I know, we've been sitting on this for like, what date was it that she tweeted me? It was like middle of April, I think.
Early, well over a month ago now.
Yeah, it's probably about 6-8 weeks ago, but yeah, Mike and Rochelle are going to be joining us for as long as we can keep them, basically, next Sunday. And by this point, the banner will be up with all the details on how to send in your questions. You can tweet us using the hashtag YattonCast, email us at yattoncast@gmail.com, or alternatively, if you're a member of one of the 3 Facebook groups, you are team number, the Amazing Race fans or Amazing Race 24/7, then I'll be posting a thread on all 3 of those. And basically, as many questions as you can send in as is physically possible. We'll try and ask as many as we can, and we'll see where it goes from there. But as far as I know, we are going to be the first full-length interview that they will be doing, because obviously they'll be doing exit interviews tomorrow, but as far as I know, no one will be sitting down for like an hour with them and asking as many questions as people want to know, which is awesome. So thank you to those guys for saying yes and volunteering as tribute, as I put it on Twitter.
Yeah, we go from Joe and Bill from Season 1 to Mike and Rochelle from Season 26, so we're just jumping the timeline just a little bit in these interviews of teams from the American seasons.
So, anything else to add before we close out this season and then open the old wounds next week with Mike and Michelle?
Just an epic question. What do you think is going to happen 27?
That was going to be my question, too. We're thinking along the same lines, Ben.
That's why we're all on the same podcast.
I think, honestly, we're going to get a normal people season next year, or next season. And then what I think they'll do is do every other season have a gimmick. So I think we might get an All Stranger season fairly soon, which would be awesome because it's something I've been plugging for.
I must say that according to Phil Kogan's Twitter, where he was asking for people for what they wanted for season 27, there was still a lot of painful tweets of people wanting fan favorites for next season, and Phil Kogan proceeded to favorite those tweets. So
hell no.
Hopefully that's not the case, but it wouldn't surprise
no.
me given the number of special themes we've had lately, because Amazing Race 23 is the last season to air that didn't have some sort of gimmicky theme.
Hell no. I do not want to see fan favourites back again, especially if teams get a third or fourth chance to race again. As much as I love Gary and Mallory, I will sacrifice them at the altar of not having to put up with that bullshit.
I think next season will be another gimmicky theme, but it won't involve past players yet.
Yeah, I think we'll probably have one season of normality before we go back to the gimmicky seasons, and I think the next one will probably be All Stranger. I'd like to see an All Stranger season, because I think, as this season proved, it's not necessarily a terrible thing to have people not know each other as long as you make it good casting.
The strength lies in the cast. If it's a good cast, it'll work. If it's not a good cast, it won't.
It'd actually probably be easier for them because they sometimes have a problem with teams where one person's amazing and one person's kind of in the same way that Survivor Blood vs. Water does. If they love one person on the team, they'll bring the kind of person as well, and that doesn't always work out. So, thank you very much for joining us. As I mentioned, we'll be back next Sunday to have a little chat with Mike and Michelle and break down their season for them. And after that, we basically hibernate for a couple of weeks with Amazing Race. If you are watching Big Brother Canada, you can catch our final 2 recaps of the season in the next fortnight. And then we'll be back during the off-season for some more special episodes. Hopefully, Mike and Michelle won't be our only interview. We've got a couple more in the pipeline, hopefully. And then you can join Logan and I in early July to begin our coverage of Amazing Race Canada 3.
With Ben.
Without Ben. Ben is going to be hibernating in his box like the Blue Peter Tortoise he is until September. And refreshed. And if you enjoyed the show, and even if you didn't, please give us a like on YouTube. And if you want to see what we're rambling about this week, as always, our Twitters are in the description down below. Thank you again.
Hashtag 250, hashtag Ginger Ninja, hashtag Super Kawaki. Peace.
And I'll do the bye.
Hashtag Golden Goddess.
What?